And we're good.
All right, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Thank you to Inspector Shannon and Chief Parr for joining for this weekly update, and thank you to the media for attending. I'd like to welcome everyone. Yesterday was a busy day as the Premier made his announcement about the reopening for further businesses in the province, and the Premier, together with Ministers Elliott, Phillips, Fedeli, and McNaughton, announced that the province is now going to be entering into stage 1 in phase 2 of the 3-phase approach the province has adopted for reopening businesses in the province. And while setting out which businesses are eligible to reopen and on what timelines, the Premier was clear to say that businesses should only open if they are ready, adding that stage 1 is really focused on workplaces that are well positioned to follow the public health advice to maintain physical distancing, implement workplace safety guidance, and limit gathering size. So the Premier announced that a number of public sector or businesses that are outdoors, like marinas, golf courses, sporting clubs, campgrounds, and private parks are eligible to open on Saturday morning. And that the remainder of businesses will be allowed to open on Tuesday. So that means that on Tuesday, our retail sector in town will be able to open and expand their activities beyond the curbside pickup. So they will be able to take customers inside, provided that they're able to abide by the public safety guidelines and social distancing restrictions. So that will be big news for us on our waterfront, as the town will be opening the public launch ramps on Heritage Drive Saturday, May 16 at 7:30 a.m. This will be for our local boaters, and visitors are asked to wait by the sign on Heritage Drive for the staff to signal them forward to proceed to the launch ramps. And staff will be encouraging everyone to respect the safe social distancing. There will be no washroom facilities at the harbor. We're not able to provide those at this time. As we move forward, we will be looking and working together with our retail sector, and our task force on economic support and recovery will be reporting with its final recommendations to council this coming Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. The task force has been working incredibly hard, and we have 9 local business leaders working with 4 council members and town staff to come up with a plan to assist and support our local economy as we try to restart and emerge from the COVID haze that really has descended over us for the last 6-7 weeks. The task force has really brought an incredible depth of expertise. We've had 9 business leaders from various sectors across our economy, which is a very broad and deep economy, really, for a population our size. And they have broken their recommendations into 6 categories. And we're looking forward to receiving that report. And then council will be working with staff to look at how we can implement those recommendations moving forward. And it'll be a very interesting process, and we're very excited with the work that the task force has done. Council, I think, is very engaged in this discussion as we try to work with our local businesses and stakeholders and our public sector groups as well. There's a virtual roundtable of almost 50 local organizations that have been working, and the task force has been in contact with those. We had presentations from 17 local interest groups 2 weeks ago, and so we've been really reaching out and working very hard with the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce, the GTDI, and other local stakeholders to make sure that we cover all the bases and do a very thorough review of ways that we can help to jumpstart the economy and to assist our local businesses and service sector as well. This morning, in fact, I was on a call with our Optimist Club, the chair of the task force, the BIA chair, and the Chamber of Commerce chair, as we look at coordinating PPE supplies, that's personal protection equipment supplies, on the local website that's been started during this crisis, Collingwood Commons. There's actually a PPE tab, and you can go on there to find suppliers for various types of PPE, lots of local suppliers for things like hand sanitizer, as well as masks, gloves, and face shields. So if you're looking for PPE in anticipation of opening your business this coming Tuesday, you can go to Collingwood Commons and find out a number of suppliers there. And I would like, again, to do a shout out to all our local businesses and private residents who have banded together to make PPEs, from our distillery group who have been making hand sanitizer, to local organizations that have been hand sewing face masks or making face shields, to our local businesses who have also retooled plants to make surgical masks. So moving forward, all of these things will be very critical as we find out how we can get back to our new normal with shopping. And so one of the recommendations from the task force is going to be looking at a sort of code of conduct that we will have, and we will have expectations of our residents as they go shopping in terms of respecting physical distancing. And we will be working with our downtown to make sure that we can expand public areas to allow for that, that when you're in stores that you abide by social distancing. And we will be asking, as residents are some of our seasonal residents and others from out of town start coming to Collingwood, we'd like to establish a code of conduct in terms of this is how we treat each other when we're in Collingwood. It's a neighborly, respectful, and collaborative process. And so that is one of the things that we will be working with in conjunction with the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that we have a code of conduct for in our retail sector to enable and enforce the social restrictions that are in place. And I would like to give a shout out to the Rotary Club, who have been working very hard with the town on the volunteer Collingwood Together database, which has been extremely effective, and the Optimist Club, who have been working on the PPE supply, as well as all the other residents, really. One thing that has really shone, I think, in our community is the way that we have galvanized and risen to the challenge that the COVID crisis has presented. Our community has really worked together collaboratively and cooperatively. We have made sure that we're taking care of our neighbors. We have made sure that we're taking care of those that are less fortunate than ourselves. In fact, this past Tuesday, I got an email from Major Neil Evenden at the Salvation Army at about 1:15, indicating that he had received a donation of 2 pallets of food, about $4,000 in groceries, from a local grocery chain, and that he needed assistance getting the supplies to the Salvation Army. And I'm happy to report that within 15 minutes, town staff responded, indicating they'd be happy to assist. And on Wednesday afternoon, the groceries were moved from the grocery store to the Salvation Army. And so the Salvation Army has now got a full and complete food bank. So if you are in need, please go and speak with the Salvation Army, and you'll be able to get some food supplies there. And that's just another shining example of how our community has really galvanized and worked together, from our residents to our local businesses to our staff at Town Hall. And finally, we are at the Friday of Nursing Week. And it's a program that was started as Nurses Day in 1971 on May 12th, which is Florence Nightingale's birthday. She is the mother of modern nursing. And in 1993, it was extended to a full week in recognition of the incredible work that nurses play in our healthcare system, and working with our residents at the hospital or in long-term care facilities and in offices to provide top-notch care. And we have certainly seen in this COVID crisis the incredible work that nurses have been doing in our community. So today, if you have not already had an opportunity, take a minute to think about and pay tribute and thank our nurses. Today's the day to do it as we wind down Nurses Week. So again, thank you to all our nurses on the front line for all the incredible hard work you've been doing. We stand behind you and we salute you and thank you. And with that, I will pass it over to Inspector Shannon. Mary.
Thank you, Your Worship. On behalf of all uniform officers, we want to extend a sincere thank you to all nurses. Certainly their work during this pandemic has truly been remarkable. Every day they attend work and put the security of their families at risk to look after our communities. So thank you for the work that they're doing. From an operation standpoint, I can say that we are ready for the warmer weather to arrive. Our boat is now in the water, so we do now have the capacity to respond to any emergency that might occur on the water. This weekend, expect to see our members out in full force on ATVs, on the trails, at our parks. And again, from our perspective, we're asking people to please respect the ongoing restrictions. You know, we've accomplished a lot, and we would hate to see the progress that we've achieved eroded in short order by violating the ongoing restrictions. So that's it from our policing. Thank you.
Mary, thank you. Chief Parr.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a steady week for Collingwood Fire Department. I think we're having success with people checking their smoke CO alarms, watching what they're cooking, outdoor activities on their property. They're burning with respect if they have a burn permit. So that's a positive note for us. We had 0 complaints this week for our outdoor burns. We also, I believe it's Police Week, is it not, Mary? So a shout out to our police force too in Collingwood that do a bang up job. And then for the weekend, again, as what the worship said, is that please maintain your physical distancing. I know that you want to do stuff and get together, but follow all provincial rules. And that's it for me. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank
you, Ross. And we have too many weeks overlapping. So if this is Police Week as well, I want to give a huge shout out to our OPP as well. Inspector Shannon has done an amazing job with her team over there. And I know looking out my window, the police cruisers going by have been extremely helpful, I think. And they've been working so closely with our bylaw officers to make sure that we've been respecting social distancing, gatherings of less than 5, and that non-essential businesses, when they were under restriction, were closed. So thank you very much, Mary, to you and your team over there. And as we sign off, I will just wish everyone a very healthy and safe long weekend. But also for those that are coming up to our community, please understand that we have been working very hard in Collingwood to respect and abide by the social restrictions. We have flattened the curve, I think, quite successfully to date. And as Inspector Shannon said, we do not want to undo all that hard work. So please stay in your homes unless you're out. And when you are out, respect social distancing and make sure that you are taking care not only of your health, but of our neighbors' health, our community's health, because that's critical moving forward. So with that being said, I will open the floor for questions. Are there any questions?
Hi, it's Erica from Collingwood today. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Erica.
Okay, yes, hi. I had a question about the code of conduct you mentioned proposed by the task force. Firstly, that would have to be approved by council first, correct?
There are no recommendations that come from the committee that would take effect unless the council has supported them. So they will be, the task force will be providing its final report with recommendations to council on Tuesday. And there will be healthy discussion, I think, and it will be received by council. And then moving forward, council would provide instructions for some staff input or staff reports, and any adoption of the resolutions or recommendations would be made by council. That's correct.
What kind of enforcement is being proposed for this code of conduct?
Well, I think what you're going to see is that for the main part, it will be very similar to the social restrictions we've had in place so far. And that is, we're looking to our community, which I think has been extremely responsive and responsible in adopting and abiding by social restrictions. And so we're going to be asking our local residents, as well as seasonal residents and visitors, that when you're in our community, we expect everyone to be abiding by these restrictions. Because it's a matter really of good neighborly conduct and the health and safety of our community.
Is there any repercussions for people not following those restrictions?
Well, I guess that would be a discussion to be had at the council table, and whether we want to enact or put in place any bylaws that would give our bylaw officers, and in relation with the OPP, some ability to enforce. That was something that council would have to consider moving forward.
Sorry, I was waiting to see if there were more questions.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I am not sure how this works. This is John Edwards from the Connection. I had the internet drop out for a sec, so if you already mentioned this, I apologize. There was a discussion by the Premier about parks. Have you guys made any or plans for potential reopening of parks? Are parks now still closed?
So our municipal parks, John, weren't really officially closed. What we had done is fenced off park benches and areas where people were congregating, and we had closed the playgrounds. So that will be, I guess, a discussion for council and staff moving forward. Right now, people are entitled to use the parks and trails, provided they abide by the social distancing and make sure that they're in groups of less than 5, unless it's one family. So in terms of our parks, they are open. Whether we start to open municipal playgrounds, I think that will be a discussion with for council with staff.
And I'm assuming the same for like sports fields, and because they're not
Yes.
in use right now.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at reopening Fisher Fields. It's going to be an interesting time because a lot of these sport organizations, when we open the fields, I'm not sure you're going to be able to play soccer. And I know for the canoe club and the rowing clubs, they are also entitled to reopen, but they're going to have to figure out how they do that. While at the same time abiding by social restrictions. So the Premier was very clear yesterday that the businesses that are opening in this first phase or second phase of stage 2, I guess it is, that they are being targeted because they are businesses that are able to put in respect and abide by the social distancing requirements. So while the soccer fields and rugby fields and the canoe club and the rowing club and other various clubs can start to look at reopening, they're going to have to consider how they can operate and at the same time keep people safe. Any other questions?
Yeah, I actually have another question. The regional medical officer of health has been saying he's in favor of making more room by closing streets to vehicle traffic and maybe leaving them open to pedestrian traffic. I just wondered what your thoughts are on that, Inspector Shannon and Mayor Saunderson, if it's been or being considered.
Well, let me start off and then I'll pass it over to Mary. This has certainly been a very big topic of discussion for the task force because we're trying to facilitate social distancing for businesses and retail sector and to get the downtown busy again. So we're having that discussion and that will be a recommendation moving forward. In fact, it's not really a new discussion. The old Vision 2020 had talked at length about closing down streets and looking at closing down here Ontario at points of the week to allow for a more walker-friendly, pedestrian-friendly corridor. And so that's something that's really now being re-examined in light of the social restriction demand. So it is very much a topic and it will be addressed in the task force and it will be something that council is looking at. And I know from discussions with other council members, it's something that we think this may be the time to really transform some of our retail areas by preventing more walking. And with that, I'll pass it over to Inspector Shannon.
Certainly the concept promotes pedestrian safety. So from a policing perspective, the likelihood is that we would see a reduction in calls for service with regards to traffic complaints, potential collisions in any area that the municipality might consider for an implementation. So from a policing perspective, we don't see this as having an adverse effect for us. In all likelihood, it would likely contribute to a safer section of town. So those are my comments.
Any other questions?
None from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Erica. John, I don't know if Ian's there. Anyone else, any more questions before we sign off?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All right, John. All right, well, everyone have a great long weekend. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Ross, and take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.